Hi everyone, Reese here, and today I've got another treat for you. On I was celebrating Independence Day because I'm in the United States, but on the same day, Sodor Land came out. And what is Sodor Land exactly? Well, for those of you who are not familiar with it, like the and the Sentinels trilogy, Sodor Land is the third installment of a series called the Shed 17 series. That is a series that takes Thomas and Friends in a body horror direction. So there's blood and guts of people being turned into trains and then them dying in horrific ways. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, that this is not for you. But if you're okay with it and you're interested in seeing Thomas and Friends in a different light and you can accept the fact that it's a parody and it's not meant to be taken seriously, then I definitely recommend giving it a watch. Um, Shed 17 brought body horror to the fray, and it's brand new back then when it first came out in 2015. And when I first saw it, I had no idea it was supposed to be a comedy, so I didn't laugh until like I watched it again, and then I'm like, oh, okay, this is funny, ha ha ha. And then Project G1, the sequel, came out, and it hit you like a freight train, pun intended, because it added emotional depth to all the horror that was going on. Yes, you've seen the blood and guts by now, but you've also got the emotional depth added to it, so it punches even harder when it happens. So, and then there's the third one, Sodor Land. So by now you've seen all the body horror, you've come to expect it. So that does so that does kind of lower your expectations a little bit because it's like, well, maybe it raises it or lowers it. Probably not that, but you've come to expect it by now, so the body horror isn't that shocking. But it does take on a few new ideas, like one of the main plots involves Sodor being cut off from the United Kingdom. Like all the biofused engines move there and they lock it off. No one can get in, no one can get out. So that's pretty much coming into play here. The plot follows the son of Keith Hartley, who met an unfortunate fate in Project G1. The son is in the future now, and targeting he's targeting biofused engines because he believes that he wants revenge for the demise of his father, or at least what he believes is the demise of his father. Um, so he's going around killing biofused engines, and while he's hunting one down, he finds out that one of them has a child. So yes, the ability to have children, biofused people to have children, takes is covered here, and it's not as disturbing as you think. Okay, like that. I mean, maybe there is train sex or involved or whatever, but it doesn't really go in that direction, thank God. Instead, it's more like surrogacy. Like you got surrogate parents and all that, and then there's DNA splicing and all that. That's pretty much what happens when all that happens. So it's nothing too disturbing, but there is a baby that ends up being born, and it's interesting what they do with it. Um, then of course you've got Toby involved in the story. So the so Keith Hartley's son is has to go to Sodor to find this child and eliminate it, I'm guessing. And what he finds there on Sodor Land is something interesting. Owen Routh comes back and he's the villain again, which I was a little disappointed by because I thought, I mean, I don't mind him coming back, but I'm a guy that's like, I want to see a different villain in each installment. That's just my personal preference. And when you repeat a villain without a good excuse, then it's like, okay, you're just getting ridiculous. It's like, I've already seen this guy in the lead role, in the lead villain role. I want to see someone else take that spot. But that's just me personally. I understand some films don't work that way, like they will repeat villains and whatnot, and in this case, I suppose that they had to because I because they didn't know what to do. Because I guess there's no other way around it. And the villain does meet his fate, and it if you remember Shed 17, the part where Thomas like has a mental and physical breakdown after finding out he's nothing more than a clone, well, the death is similar to that. Owen Routh's death is similar to that, but instead he's melted down into plastic by a test tube that's shot, and he melts down to plastic and all of that. And and you hear the same scream that Thomas made, and it's like that part was a bit of a downer for me because it's like, oh, well, this is just a rehash of what came before. So that was kind of a letdown for me. Um, but what comes next is something much more interesting because it turns out that but it's also very confusing because it's hinted that it's the original Thomas. It's not a clone, it's the original boy, all grown up and modified to be the perfect specimen, right? But then it's also hinted that it's the child because the smokestack is the same as when it's born. So it's very confusing, and I think Paul answered questions on X. I don't use X, so I don't have access to those answers. So that's kind of frustrating because if I want answers, I want them to be in the film. I don't want to have to go elsewhere to find them, right? But then again, I'm probably guilty of that myself because Legend of the Ghost Train does leave does leave out some things, and I've had to expand on the lore outside, right? So, uh, so I'll let it slide. I'll let that go. But I would like it a little more clear what exactly this healer is. Like, yeah, and why do I say healer? Unlike the previous two installments, which had unhappy endings, this one has a much more positive, upbeat, happy ending. Like all the characters that died in the previous films, they're revived, and this being is what revives them and heals them, and that's interesting. So I do like that. I do like that this film did something different and gave us a positive ending as opposed to the previous films. There were other things that I wasn't crazy about, like okay, no, let me cover one thing that I found interesting. Thomas, the cloned Thomas, when he comes back into the fray after him ripping Keith Hartley in half, he's taken back to Sodor and he gets a new steam engine body this time. He's accepted that he has to survive as an engine now, so they build him a new body, and it's an interesting one. Like it's still Thomas-ish, but at the same time it looks something completely different, steampunkish almost. And and yet still when he's attacking soldiers, like he attacks them with a biological disease, like he knows he's dying, he's going to go out with an attack, kind of like Diesel and Cranky in the previous film. He crawls out of his body looking like a slug, but then it's like, well, why go through the effort of rebuilding your body if you're just going to crawl out of it as like a final attack? That was a little weird, but it was very, very confusing. But maybe he was pissed off at the world and he's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go out in a suicidal rage. I'm going to infect people. That's pretty much what he does. And okay. All right. I get it. So I do overall Sodor Land is a mixed bag for me. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I liked it. But I would give it a 7 out of 10, but there are obvious flaws in this film that probably do need to be addressed, and I don't know if he's going to do another one. You get the vibe that this is supposed to be the last one, but there were a few questions left unanswered. Like one in particular really bugs me that probably got resolved outside, but If you're expecting to see the fat controller or the fat bastard get his comeuppance in this film, that does not happen. He is nowhere in this film. So he was the big bad of the first film, and then he had a cameo at the very end of the second, where we see Keith Hartley's fate. Um, you don't get that in Sodor Land. He's pretty much done. I mean, there. I think Paul's vids decided he was done with Sir Topham Hatt. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know for sure. Maybe there will be a fourth or some kind of epilogue or spinoff or something that explains what happens. I don't know, but we don't get that in Sodorland. Now, Toby has a role in Sodorland, and it's revealed that it was one of his clones that got absorbed into Project G1. Well, we get to see the real Toby. What is his purpose? Well, basically, he's gutted from his body, he's zombified, like the brains and organs removed, and his body is used as a vehicle to take Keith Hartley's son to Sodor. And of course, Diesel 10 is standing guard, and who should come along but Kevin the Crane? Kevin the Crane's like, yeah, I know there's a guy in there, but you know what? Screw it. Let him in. He's about to see something. Let him see what we got. So that was interesting because one of Kevin's clones got absorbed too. So it was good that Paul's vids addressed that. That was good. Um, because if Toby's just a clone, then Kevin's got a clone too. So, and then Diesel 10 is in there. We get to see his origins, and I like what they did. I like what they did with him. Split personality instead of a twin. Instead of twins, you get split personality, and that's Diesel 10. And I thought that was a pretty cool part. So, kudos on that. Again, 7 out of 10. Yeah, there were some complaints that I had, but it's not terrible. I would definitely give Sodorland a watch. Though if you're disturbed by seeing a man's butt, because when Thomas, aka the child or whatever, comes out of the tube and heals everybody, you see butt. So if that bothers you, stay away. But Sodorland does end on a happy note. So that's all I got to say about it. 7 out of 10. Watch it if you want. That's up to you. Paul's vids, great job with what you gave us. Yes, I did have some nitpicks and some complaints, but some of them were personal. So great job to you, man. Keep them coming if you want. Just, it's your channel. You do you.